Welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, manifestation and the power of manifestation. With a young lady who is going to share with us how she herself came into the skill set of manifestation. Not only manifestation, we're going to talk about a little bit of card reading. Some people call it tarot cards. And I'm also sharing with you my experience with dealing with cards. They're not as bad as people might think. So today on the show, let's welcome Miss Gabrielle. She's total Italian too, I might add. Defabbio to the show. What's up, baby girl?
Hi, how you doing, Andre?
I am doing fine. Gabrielle Defabbio, total Italian. Tell me about Gabrielle real quick. Who is Gabrielle?
Well, I'm always been exciting and adventurous. I've always wanted to help people. I've always wanted to give services to the world. I started out in customer service. But God told me that was not going to be the right path for me. No matter what job I had, I always got forced to quit or fired in extreme situations. So I decided to start my own business. And that is where I'm now sharing with everybody how to manifest, how to create their reality and do all these cool different things.
Now, you're pretty young, and you said you went through some different states of trauma in your life and you lost your son's father and stuff. What was all that like for you?
Well, at first, a long time ago, I did have a pretty bad drug addiction for about 2 years. So when I had that drug addiction, I was probably 19 years old, 19 to 20 to 21. Then I got pregnant with my son. And then I realized I had to get off the drugs. So I got off the drugs and then I completely moved states. So I lived in South Carolina and then I moved all the way to New York. And I was completely by myself. I had no family, no friends, nothing. And I decided to completely rebuild my personality from there. I didn't know that's what I was doing at the time. I was just trying to stay clean at that time. So what I did was I moved to a whole new state. I started reading tarot cards to pay the rent. And then I started learning about manifestation. So when I started learning about manifestation, I didn't know that I wanted to manifest anything. I didn't know what I wanted to manifest. But at that time, I had my son, and I was really bored being a stay-at-home mom.
Hold on a minute. I didn't mean to interrupt you. So let's go back a minute. You had your son when you had the addiction. Am I correct?
No, I quit drugs when I found out I was pregnant with him.
What was your drug of choice?
I was on methamphetamines for a while.
How long did it? What made you decide to pick New York to do your intervention or to refocus on yourself? Why New York? There's tons of places you could have went to.
Because I grew up there. So I grew up in Buffalo, New York.
Okay.
And my family knew I was on drugs that were in South Carolina. My family was like, well, why don't you just go out of state? They kind of wanted to disown me at the time because they didn't have the faith in me that I would actually get clean and that, they thought they were going to be taking care of my kid. So they told me to just go out of state and basically kind of disowned me a little bit. So I had no choice but to make myself from the ground up there.
But you had family in New York though, so you am I correct?
No, I did not. So the family that I did have moved with me down to South Carolina, but then I just moved back by myself.
So out of all this, you said I'm going to Buffalo, you had no game plan, nowhere to live. Then how did you even? So what did you do? Get off the airplane and just start walking?
No, I mean, I set up a plan. I called somebody And luckily, you know how things just work out, right? My old childhood home that I used to have was already paid off and nobody was living in it. So my father had pulled some strings to make it a house for rent. So I then had to figure out how to pay for rent, but I was a stay-at-home mom. So, I was pregnant for a while. So I worked at McDonald's for a while. And then after I worked at McDonald's and I had my kid, I needed to find a way to pay rent still. So I then started using tarot cards and paying the rent with readings, personal readings.
Okay, so I'm trying to keep the viewers on track with this because we're going to get pretty deep later in the show. So
Okay.
you have a methamphetamine addiction.
Mm-hmm.
You wind up, your parents basically excommunicate you and basically say, okay, pick a place to go. You pick Buffalo, New York. Your father had property there that you grew up in, a house. So they pretty much said, you can go stay in this house. I take it because I don't see nobody just getting on a bus and just walking the street. So they had a place for you to go. So they said, go to this house, it's paid for, cut the license stuff on. You're pregnant at the same time, not having you am I right? Am I correct? You're pregnant.
Yeah. Yes.
You get there, you work at McDonald's, they pay to start paying the rent to your father, aka landlord. Am I on point now? Make sure I got the viewers on point.
Yes.
Okay. So now tell me about the tarot cards. How did all this come into place?
I've been practicing them for a while. But then as I started to see crazy synchronicities lead me to exactly where I needed to go and how everything was working out perfectly, I started to believe in them more. Because as soon as I started using tarot cards, things started happening in my life that were lining me up to where I needed to go. So
Explain.
I started
Explain.
doing tarot cards probably when I was on drugs. And then after I decided to get clean, when you do tarot cards, you learn the lessons that you're supposed to be learning. So if you have an addiction, the tarot cards are going to tell you. If you're doing something wrong, the tarot cards are going to tell you how to fix that. So I started using that as a tool. And as soon as I started fixing things in my life that the tarot cards were telling me to fix, everything would line up for me. All of my opportunities just seemed to come to me immediately because I was fixing the things in my life that were unconscious, so to speak. Things I didn't really know that I was doing or things that were holding me back. So then I started to
Give
really
the
believe in
viewers,
these cards a lot more. And then
do me a favor.
the messages came to me when I would read.
Do me a favor. Give the viewers an example of
And so,
what you're about with the cards and how they were telling you to fix certain things. Like, was it a ace of spade, a king of heart, a double dragon? Like, give me more of the viewers more of an example of how something was going wrong in your life and those cards basically told you what you needed to do.
so one example, after I had my son, this was a very powerful example. So after I'd had my son, I didn't really like being a stay-at-home mom. I was so bored all the time and I couldn't really find abundance in my life here. So the tarot cards told me to literally wake up every morning and just go outside and play with my son. To just literally go outside and make my life abundant. Just try it, just do it. So I would do that every day. I woke up and me and him would walk to the pet store. We would go everywhere. We didn't have any friends. We didn't know anybody, but we ended up making such a huge community. And after that, I want to say about 2 months later, I got a check for $2,000 in the mail. Because I was abundant within, I was now abundant without. The check came from a random source. It was a tax check, and I couldn't even file taxes because I didn't have a job. So I got a random tax check in the mail for taxes I didn't even file, and it was $2,000. So that is another lesson I learned. Tarot teaches you that as within, so without. So if you feel abundant within, the universe can only give you abundance without. If you feel safe within, the universe can only make you feel safe in return.
Break that down a little bit more for layman terms for people that don't understand the in and out and in and out. Because remember, we're talking to people that may not understand the universal law of attraction. So break that down a little bit more.
Yeah, the universe.
In without.
So, as within, so without. So, if people are judging you in your reality, there's probably a good chance you're judging yourself. Um, if you see yourself, if you look in the mirror and you think that you don't like your image, you can change that. However you perceive yourself is how the world is going to perceive you. However you look at the world is how the world will always look back at you. That's the law of attraction, and that's how you manifest.
Okay, keep going. So let's go back to these cards. Which cards were you looking at that told you these different scenarios? Like, is it called the double dragon, the king of spade, the queen of hearts? Like, which, educate the viewers a little bit more on these cards. Like, what was you looking at that told you different things?
Okay, well I can grab a deck. Hold on, let me go grab a deck really quick and I'll tell you.
Okay. We're getting ready to get real deep here, so make sure you do not turn that knob off. Now she's back, so we're going to get real deep. Do not, like I said, turn that knob off. Let's watch.
Okay, so let's see. What's a big card?
Do a prediction first. Let them see how it works. Um, like maybe say how your interview is going to turn out to be, or something like that, and then see what your reading says.
Okay. So what's the outcome of this interview?
No, your outcome. Don't put me in it. You might wind up with it with a
Okay, what's
double
my
A
outcome? What is my outcome?
I didn't hear you. What did you say? You probably away from your microphone.
I asked myself, what is my outcome for this interview?
Okay. This is cool, man. I'm excited.
Okay, so the first card I got is Strength.
Okay.
Strength is a card that you pull. It's a major arcana. So it's one of the big cards in the deck. So this is a card that comes up when you're having to be strong, when you're having to maybe go against something that might not believe in what you believe in. Okay, but you're having to be strong here. You might have to stand in your power
Right.
while people around you might not be agreeing with you or something like that. And let's see, let's get another card here.
How many cards do you need to get to complete the act of what you're doing when you ask the question? Like, is there a certain number that you need to pull out every ask?
No. I will pull a card for as long as I
Really?
want,
So
and
you
I'll
can just
use
keep
as many
pulling
decks.
cards down?
Hmm. Yeah, some people have like a setup, like they'll have like the past, the present, the future, and then they'll have the outcome. It depends on what reader you get. So when I'm doing a reading, I'll do past, present, future, and then I'll do outside influences, and then I'll do the lesson you're learning, and then I'll do the outcome and the challenges.
Well,
So
well,
outside influences will tell you who's affecting your decisions, who's probably in your life that shouldn't be. Okay, so those are outside influences. And so you'll have different sections in your reading, like so you know what to tell your querent.
but how do you know when to cut it off? Like, if there's 52 cards in a deck and you ask a question, like you're asking the question now about your appearance on the show.
Mm-hmm.
How do you say, okay, I'm gonna pull out 7 cards and this is it? You know what I mean? Because you can take off 52 cards and make an assumption. So is there a cutoff to the question as it relates to cards?
No, not really. I mean, because there's a million decks you can use. I mean, this is a standard deck right here, the one that's been around since the early 1980s. But there's other decks with words on them, with pictures on them, with hearts and lace on them. The whole premise of tarot is that we're all connected, and I'm basically reading your mind. Where our minds are connecting right now. So whatever image I get from this card, it can be a heart, it can be a star, it can be anything. Whatever message I get from that, I'm relaying to you. So it's all an energy thing. It's not really matter of fact. So I can't just pull, like, I'm not going to be like, hey, I'm going to do a reading for you and only pull 7 cards. I mean, if I wanted to do that, I can do that. But if I'm going to go deep in a reading and learn about your lessons and your insecurities and, things that you need to work on at a deep level, there's going to be a lot of cards involved.
Okay, so let's finish what we did with this one. So your first one was strength. What else is it telling you?
Let's see, at the bottom of the deck, we have the 7 of Cups in reverse. So the 7 of Cups in the upright is about illusions and confusion, but in the reverse, it's about seeing something clearly. So seeing something clearly about my strength, seeing something clearly about maybe I know what I'm talking about here. So that's being strong and making things clear for people here. So being strong in my ability to make things clear for people. So that's what I'm going to feel like at the end of this reading, feeling strong in my ability to teach people things.
Okay, pull another one. Let's see. Let's keep going. Let's see what else we got going on.
Okay. We have the 5 of Wands in the reverse. The 5 of Wands in the upright is inner conflict, maybe conflict with outer circumstances. But in the reverse, it's maybe you've solved that inner conflict. Because we all have inner conflict about being seen, about people understanding us. So I might defeat some inner conflict here that I have with myself because I'm realizing I'm actually good at what I do here. So fear of being seen, fear of people not understanding you, shame, things like that. Maybe I'm overcoming that a small bit after this podcast.
Let's try one more. This is crazy. Let's try one more.
And then we have the 8 of Cups. So this is emotionally walking away from something. So I'm emotionally walking away from the fact that that people might not understand me. That maybe I can be seen no matter what people think of me. So I'm going to emotionally walk away from the fact, I'm not going to let it bother me emotionally anymore, that people might not understand me.
Wow. That's crazy. Like
And
when you
at the
start,
bottom of the deck,
yeah. Like what kind of response do you get from, let me do this, let me redo this. What kind of people actually come to you to get a tarot card reading? Like what are they dealing with? Are they looking for reassurance? Do they have conflict in their life? Um, and most people will say, why not resort to spirituality? But I think, isn't tarot cards part of spirituality to some degree?
they are designed specifically to help you with your manifestations. So when people will come to me for tarot card readings, it's usually about their manifestation. Tarot cards are about unconscious habits. That's why they're portrayed as dark. That's why they're portrayed as they might be scary, because it's things that we're afraid to look at, things
Mm,
that we probably ignore or deny throughout our experience.
right.
So people usually come to me for manifestation reading. So when I do their manifestation reading, I will pull like what is blocking them, what's keeping them from getting their manifestation. Usually it involves self-worth. You don't think you're worthy enough to attract that thing into your life. You have to have a high self-concept first. You have to believe you can get anything, you can do anything, you are the best, you're amazing at what you do. You have to believe
Mm,
all of these things in order to attract what you feel like you deserve. So if someone feels shame, if someone feels like they're not good enough, that'll show up in the cards. And that's usually the number one block in people's manifestations. But I also do have other options, like a gossip reading, like what are other people saying and thinking about you, for people who aren't really into the spiritual stuff, they're going to be interested in that. They want to know what people are saying about them. They want to know, who's cheating on them, if their partner's cheating on them or whatever. It might put them at ease. I also do have emergency readings. So if you need to know something like right now ASAP and you're really confused about it, that one's only $10 because someone might be actually in a financial pinch. So those readings are like for emergencies, if you need to know something right now and you just don't have any clarity, you're really confused. So those are the options that I do have for tarot readings.
well, how accurate are you? Because you have to get a lot of flack from, let's call it religious narcissists, that will look at
Yeah.
yeah, will look at you and be like, that's the work of black magic, the devil, blah, 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 blah. Like, how accurate are you in delivering? Because people want results. I mean, that's why we have
Mhm.
spirituality. That's why we have religious narcissism. People still want clarity, but they want abundance at the same time. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
how accurate are you with your deliverance to these people, or is your message more of a comfort to them? Because to me, you can't manifest, and I could be wrong. You know this better than I do. To me, if I'm in a state of spiritual conflict in my journey, you can tell me everything under the sun to soften the blow. You know what I mean? It's kind of like
Yeah.
you're using a 20-pound glove, you're using a 3-pound glove. But at the end of the day, because you softened my heart doesn't mean that I still have the ability to basically carry out the order of the manifestation that you've told me. Does that make any sense?
Mhm. Yes. Tarot does not have the power to change you. Tarot only has the power to tell you what you probably should be doing. It's up to you. It's up to you to take that action. But how accurate am I? I get every time I send a reading, I always get a great response back, and that's what I do it for. The money is just a byproduct. So I love helping people, and I love letting people see the way. If you've ever been stuck in a situation, if you're leading by faith, you know, if you're leading by faith and you can't see what you're getting into, tarot is perfect because it can tell you like, hey, your manifestation's almost here, or you just have to do this one thing to clear your way. And I
Mm,
love helping people and finally letting them see, what parts of themselves are they blocking.
mm,
But I will go on like TikTok live and I will do free readings there for anyone who comes in the room. So I don't like necessarily do a specific reading for that one. I just do that so people can get a feel of what I do and they can get their messages that they need to get. So that one will just be like an open forum. That will be like, oh, you need to cut boundaries with this person, you need to break up with this person. You have a fear of being seen. That one comes up a lot, especially on TikTok when I'm doing them on TikTok, because a lot of people are afraid of being seen on TikTok. So that one will come up a lot, and then that will get them to then think, hey, maybe I want to take this more seriously, and they'll go on my website and they'll buy a reading, like a very personal reading to their own personal situation.
what kind of negative effects are you getting? Because, like I said, you're still dealing in what we call the religious world.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised with the rules and regulations with social media that you haven't been banned for some type of whatever they come up with, because the people that you are offending, how do they come at you? How do you handle that?
People definitely come at me. Like I'll be on live and they'll like, put a comment like Jesus loves you, or, something crazy like that. But when you're in this field, like I'm sure you know as well, when you're in this field where people might not believe what you're saying, you have to accept and forgive them because everyone has their own beliefs. I've had my own beliefs at one point that were probably horrible for me,
Mhm.
but you can't judge people for the beliefs that they have. Everyone's going to have different beliefs. But what you can trust is that you're going to attract the people who are on the same wavelength as you. So I don't think about the people that might not be on the same wavelength as me. I
Right.
only think about the people who are going to respect me and support me and be in my space. So therefore, that's what I attract.
Hmm.
So I don't worry about people judging me because I'm putting it in the field. Like I'm asking for it. The more I worry about people judging me, the more I worry about these negative people in my life. I'm literally asking for it. I'm praying for it. But if I only keep in my field, in my mind, of people who support me, people who love me, people who actually get what I'm saying, people that this clicks with, those are the only people that I can attract because that's the only thing I'm putting out there. That's the only thing I'm praying for, you know?
Have you had situations to where you had a, let's call it what it is, a non-believer, and all of a sudden they changed their whole perspective on the reading, the manifestation, the whole 9 yards?
Yes, my father actually. So when I was living in New York, my father came to visit me and he was seeing all this manifestation stuff that I did. And he was there when I got that check in the mail. He's like, how did you get this? So I started telling him about tarot cards and manifestation. And he thought it was crazy, right? He was like, no way, like that's insane. And then he started implementing meditation and things in his life. Then things started to happen for him. So then he
Such as
came up to
what?
me. He's like, hey, can you read my tarot cards one day? And so I did. I read his tarot cards. Everything was good. He got a lot of stuff out of it. And then now he's an avid tarot card watcher. Like he goes on YouTube and he reads his own tarot card readings. He meditates every night. You know, he's cut a lot of addictions out of his life, and he's become a totally better person because of the spirituality I've introduced him to.
Wow. So we talked offline. So I'm gonna just be totally transparent, because I told you I had a friend, I won't mention their name, who before we started the podcast series, reached out and said, let me give you a tarot card. And like I was sharing with you, I was like, I'm not doing that. You know, I was like totally against it, the whole 9 yards. But somehow or another, she was very persistent. And I'm open-minded. I don't come from a fear base. So I'm like, okay, you know, let me do your thing. And it was amazing. For that whole entire almost a year of the readings, everything was coming. But then what I realized too, and you can kind of piggyback off of this, I don't think that the cards would have been that much of an impact or an influence in my journey if I wasn't already aligned for the purpose, if I wasn't already vibrational ready for it. Does that make any sense? So I think if I had came at it, if I didn't have a journey, a destination, and a reason, those cards never would have been put in place. But as she was explaining them to me, I was doing everything subconsciously anyway. I was creating the journey, the image, and the vibrational for everything that I wanted. The cards were kind of like the extra vibrational tools to keep me going, or in other words, like you was talking about with your dad, to keep me on track. Not saying that I wasn't going to get negative frequencies, because to me the negative frequency was, who am I surrounding myself with that is not aligned with the vision in order to make everything manifest itself? Does that make any sense? So I'm a prime example. I don't even like calling them tarot cards. I just, because it don't even sound right. I just call it a reading. I did a reading. It was very enlightening for me. It was very spiritual to a degree, but it helped to raise my vibrational frequency and to get what you was talking about. I got more clarity. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions here.
Okay.
Let's talk about vibrational raising. How do you do that? Like, how do you get a person to raise their vibrational frequency? But let me clarify something to the listeners. This is a judge-free platform, so we don't need all that negative energy coming through. And this is her journey. And if her journey and her mission, and let me rephrase it, because I say this on my podcast to people, half of you individuals don't even know your own purpose. So she's already told you what her purpose is. She already told you the struggles that she went through, and a spiritual guide, no matter who he or she is, led her to where she's at today. So let's get that out of the thing now. So how do you teach a person how to get to their vibrational frequency?
Awesome.
And do they have to be, what's the connection between vibrational frequency? Thank you for the download. What's the connection to religious narcissism or as it relates to vibrational frequency?
You're breaking up pretty bad.
Okay, I'm going to say this again. What is the connection between religious narcissism and the raising of vibrational frequency?
Oh, okay. So how you raise your frequency or anybody else's around you, you learn to be authentic. And what does it mean to be authentic? Is to be whoever you want to be and do whatever you want to do. That's going to raise your vibration. Authenticity is higher. That's a higher vibration than love. So if you're out here being yourself, doing exactly what you want because it makes you feel good, other people around you are going to see what you're doing, right? And they're going to be like, how did she do that? How are they doing that? How are they getting what they want? How are they so authentic? How are they so not scared of what people think of them? And you're going to raise the consciousness of the people around you to copy you, but also you're just giving other people more authenticity. You're showing people, hey, this is your life. You're supposed to live it. Like, get out there. Like, the biggest regret that people have on the other side is that they came here and they just sat around and they fucking worried about what they wanted forever, but they never actually did anything to solve their worries. They never actually had fun. They never actually were authentic. They never actually were themselves. They never actually did the work to put themselves at peace about things. So raising your vibration has a lot to do with being authentic, which your authentic self is self-disciplined. They get rid of addictions. Your authentic self doesn't scroll on their phone all day hoping that, looking at other people's dream life, hoping it happens to you one day. Being authentic isn't, being scared that people might see you for, parts of yourself that you might not like. It's okay. It's okay. That's how you're going to raise your consciousness, by literally just being yourself. And the other people around you are going to see that you're being yourself and that you're powerful at it and that you're good at it. And they're going to want to do that too.
What is the relationship between religion and frequency? Because you have people that are
Um,
spiritual based and they will say this is total ludicrous. So is there a correlation between the two?
Of course, of course. I always say the Bible is a manifestation directory. All the religions are they all have some truth to them. But do I think you should take them so literally? Absolutely not. Um, if you know anything about manifestation, you know that you have to live in the end. What does living in the end mean? It means living in your desired reality. So when you're in the Bible, you're reading to live in God's image. What is God's image? It's where everything is working out perfectly for you, where you have everything that you want,
Mm,
where everything is fruitful. So
mm.
in the Bible, to live in God's image means also to live in the end. It means live in the life that you want to have. You don't have to live in this life that you don't want to have. Um, so living in his image is one of my favorite quotes from the Bible. Manifestation and the Bible both go hand in hand. But I mean, I understand people have their own beliefs. Everyone is going to have their own beliefs. Everyone's going to be super religious and not even give this the time of day. But those aren't the people you want in your space anyway.
Right.
Um, there's so much abundance,
Mm,
so much abundance. There's so many people. Everybody's waking up day by day, you
right.
know? So is there going to be some religious, narcissistic people out there? Of course. But those people are just there to show us what it looks like when you don't have an open mind, when you're very limited, very finite. And being authentic is not being finite and limited.
Let's talk about relationship as it relates to insecure men and women and the ideal of the fake power theory that you talked about.
Yes. So you will have, if your parents were in an abusive relationship, chances are you're probably going to be in an abusive relationship, because when you grew up, that was your idea of love. That's what you normalized as love as a child. So you're going to normalize that love as an adult. Say your parents always made you feel shame, or your parents always made you feel like a child, like you didn't know what you were doing. You're going to get in a relationship later on as an adult And your partner is going to make you feel insecure, make you feel like you're a child, like you can't make your own decisions. Okay. So what do you need to do there? You need to realize that those are your parents' beliefs. So normally the relationship problems you have are 100% to do with your parents. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought my parents were normal. And then until I started getting into abusive relationships constantly. And I'm like, okay, so what is it about my parents? So I had to step back and realize that they're not normal. Like we think our parents are normal a lot of the time, but it's really not. Those were just their coping mechanisms. That's what their parents taught them how to parent. And usually, like probably our grandparents, our great grandparents, they were in a stressful state. They were in the Great Depression. They were worried about being judged, so they did all kinds of stuff to control their children and make them look a certain way, feel a certain way, power dynamics. Everyone thinks their parents are normal. But if you constantly are getting in abusive relationships, take a step back and look at your parents for a second. Please take a step back and look at your parents and realize, is this normal? Okay. So whenever the way you talk to yourself within is going to be how your partner talks to you. But if you don't know that you're talking to yourself in a horrible way because you just think it's normal, you're going to have a recurring pattern of abusive relationships. So when
So
I
were
was
your
younger, my
parents
parents
abusive?
used to really not, I used to want to help people like I do now. Right. And that's why I actually had to, huh?
Were your parents abusive to each other?
I turns out I had three narcissistic parents. So I had a mom who was narcissistic, a stepdad who was narcissistic, and a father who was narcissistic. I had to cut my entire family off. So I don't speak to any of my family anymore. Um, but when I was a child, I was always wanting to do stuff like this. I was always wanting to help people, but they told me like I wasn't smart enough, or like, okay, yeah, you have big dreams, nice try. You're gonna be in a 9 to 5 job just like me. You know, so whenever they would say those things, I took them on as truth. I took them on as truth. I'm not smart enough. I'm gonna have a 9 to 5 just like them. So I then that was spilling over into my work life. That was spilling over. That's why I had to cut my family off because their beliefs about me didn't change.
Okay, so help me understand, Gabrielle. We talked about manifestation and intimacy, and the energy that's released during intimacy is definitely very powerful, as you just indicated. But let's talk about the individuals that get involved in these, let's call it forbidden fruit areas, the swingers, the game bangs, the just crazy things. How is that related to negative manifestation, and how does that impact the frequency of intimacy and what intimacy and energy change? How does this how was this bad to go into that realm?
For one, if you're in like a swinger relationship or if you feel like you're just dating around, that's not good because that's what you feel like is normal to you. So you're normalizing that. Like shows like Love Island and like reality shows where they're just dating each other like that in that area in that way. That's another thing they're normalizing for us here. To date like that, to love like that. But also with sex and manifestation, sex is a very, very powerful manifestation tool. So when we're having sex, we are like at the highest. Like that is like where you can connect with God. Okay. But we have made so many things around sex. When we're at that highest point, when we're connecting with God, we're thinking about very nasty, restricting, humiliating, horrible things, okay, when we are having sex. And when you're thinking about things, when you're acting out those things, you're doing those things, it can manifest in your daily life. So BDSM, negative things while you're doing when you're having sex, that you're using your most creative power. That is what sex is for. It's to create, having babies, right? Creating humans. So essentially, you're creating when people use the O method a lot when they're manifesting, because whatever you're thinking about when you're masturbating as well can manifest. So
What do you mean
people
by
use
that?
that.
Elaborate on that a little bit more. What do you mean by that?
So, if you're watching porn, if you're watching something that's really probably not morally acceptable, you know what I'm saying, and you're masturbating to that, like say it's a woman being dominated and you're a woman and you're masturbating to that, you can go out and get dominated in your actual life. Also, the things that you're attracted to have a lot to do with your deepest traumas and fears. So if you're attracted to like being humiliated or dominated, probably you had to deal with that a lot in your childhood and you're acting it out now in your sexual life and you're manifesting it even harder and harder. So, when you're having sex, it should be a man and a woman. That's why they say two become one in the Bible. When you have sex, two people become one. So make sure the person you're having sex with loves you, cares for you, all these things, because whatever energy they have will be intertwined with yours. So if someone is like insecure or broke or a player, you're going to intertwine with that person, and now you're going to become all of those things. And then you're going to start dating people and you're going to become a player, or you're not going to understand why no one likes you, because you think you're still yourself. It's hard to explain because you don't realize that you're actually transferring energy when you're having sex with someone. So whatever energy they have, if they're insecure about money, if they're insecure about people liking them, if they have a lot of shame, you are going to now integrate that with yourself. A lot of people have a lot of things, a lot of traumas that aren't even theirs, um, because they're around so many people.
But
Say
I
your
mean, how
boyfriend.
are you going to, before we wrap up?
Okay.
I know the viewers are like, go deeper, Dre. What am I supposed to do? Like do a DNA test on somebody before I become intimate with them to find out what their traumas is? Because people don't openly tell you their traumas. You
No,
know
they
what I mean?
don't.
So if I'm making love to, if you're making love to a man and making love to a woman, is there rules of engagement that I need to ask this person so it doesn't mess with my energetic universe and I'm giving away my essence to the wrong person? How do you even ask them without offending them?
Well, of course you're going to use your discernment first. So don't sleep with someone the first like week or two of being with them. You need to use your self-discipline. It's all on you. It's not on the other person. It's all on you. So are you using your discernment? Are you using self-discipline to see? Because if you're experienced and you have traumas, you can also see, like if you know this information, you can also look at someone and know their traumas. So if you're out with someone for dinner and they only give a $2 tip, they're insecure about money, and you can say that. And then later maybe you can ask them like, hey, are you insecure about money? Or if you get to know them well enough, you're not having sex with someone unless you get to know them well enough, right? That's
Well,
the whole
not
point.
in today's society.
Right, and that's why they're normalizing these this Love Island. That's why they're normalizing
Yeah.
all these TV shows, so everybody just mixes with each other and no one knows their traumas. No one knows why they have these things they have. No one knows why they're so insecure. No one knows why, they get with this man this one time and then now they can't like make career moves. They can't have creativity. You know what I'm saying? Sex is a big manifestation tool, and you need to be careful with who you're having sex with, because if you're having sex with a bum, you could also turn out to be a bum after they leave you, and they can walk away with all your blessings. So you need to be careful because you're intertwining energy. They're taking all of your beautiful energy that you've worked so hard on yourself to heal, to learn lessons, and they're taking that with them. And then as the woman, you have a womb, and you collect, you receive. As a woman, you receive. As a man, you take and direct that energy. So the man is taking the energy and directing it in his own life, while you are receiving in your womb all of his energy. You're just collecting all of that crappy energy,
Well, I
and
guess
you're going out and using that in your life.
I guess if you're a woman, you better watch who you're sleeping with.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about, before we wrap up, let's talk about how do we take all that and how do we take all of this information that you've given us, and thanks so much for taking time out to come on the show and share such a beautiful journey of teaching us the power of the cards, the power of manifestation. With all of that said, how does one control his or her reality to level up?
To level up, well, you have to get rid of all the things in your life that are keeping you held back. So if you have a boss that treats you like shit, probably got to quit your job. If your family treats you like shit, you probably got to leave your family. You know what I'm saying? These are things that we have to show God, we have to show the universe what we're not going to accept. So if someone in your life is treating you a certain way, for one, I got to work on the way I'm talking to myself, because obviously they're disrespecting me because I'm disrespecting myself. But also, what you're going to do is you're going to step away from that and heal. Okay. You're telling God, hey, this isn't normal for me. I'm not accepting that as normal in my reality. What's normal to me is a higher level: respect, love, compassion. So, how are you going to talk to yourself now? With respect, with love, with compassion. And then now you can attract people in that way, because you need to learn your lesson. You need to learn, like, hey, maybe your boss was talking to you like shit because you were talking to yourself like shit. Also, separate. You don't need to be around that person anymore. You're showing God, you're showing the universe, hey, I'm leveling up here. I'm doing things that are more aligned with me, with the person that I want to be.
What are the three basic handicaps that individuals have a hard time dealing with to even start their journey to manifestation? What are the three biggest factors that prevent us as humans, male and female, both of them, let's talk about both of them, from manifesting?
From manifesting, your biggest block is that you probably don't believe. You don't believe it until you see it. So that's a hard block. But you have to have faith. That's the whole point. You have to know that God is going to be there when you jump. You have to know that there's going to be a net to catch you, male or female. So there's the famous saying that I love: take the leap and the step will appear. Take the jump and the net will appear. So we're all leading out of faith. We're all doing things from our intuition. We're all getting ideas and just going after them, So that's one of our biggest blocks: is how can I go after this amazing idea that I have when I might not believe that it can happen to me. So that's a big block. Another big block is self-worth, self-concept. So a lot of people have this crazy amazing dream, like, hey, like when you had your dream to start your podcast, you were probably like, how am I going to get there? How am I even going to do that? You know what I'm saying? How is that even going to happen for me? Who am I to get a podcast? How am I worthy of having a podcast? But then you leveled up your self-worth and you're like, of course I can have a podcast. Why can't I have a podcast? I want to share things. I want to introduce people. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So you have to raise your self-concept, because if you would have kept your self-concept as that when you first got the idea to start your podcast, if you would have stayed in that place, you wouldn't have manifested anything. Now look at you. You've got your podcast. So many things are working out for you. But self-concept is a big block, because no one will even move. No one will even jump, because they don't trust themselves.
You have to put action behind the manifestation in order for the manifestation to work.
Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean going around trying to fix everything by yourself. You're going to get something called an aligned action. So you should, every day, you should meditate, or you should pray, whatever you feel like doing. You should take your time to talk with the universe, talk with God. And after that time, you are 110% going to get a message. You are 110% going to get a message. And all the time, it could be something so small. Like the other day I was meditating and I got an inspiration to go to the park, to wake up like at like the next morning after I got my son on the bus, mm-hmm. wake up and then go straight to the park with my cup of tea and just walk around. So I did that. I went to the park with my cup, walked around. Got a great idea for my TikTok video, by the way. So that's what I was searching for in my manifestation. I was like, I don't really know what to make on TikTok today, but I want to make something that everyone's going to love. Mm-hmm. That was my intention. So after my manifestation, I got an inkling to after my meditation, I got an inkling to just go to this park and walk around. At the park, I got the idea for my TikTok video. So it's not going to make sense. Mm-hmm. So you're not doing things on your own volition to try to control your situation. You're asking God, what do I do? And he's going to tell you something so weird, something that doesn't make any freaking sense, but you're going to go do it, and it's going to get you your manifestation.
You know what, Gabrielle, thank you so much for taking time to come on the show and share beautiful, beautiful knowledge. How can the viewers reach out to you? How can they reach out to you? How can they follow you and support you?
I'm on YouTube as Gabs Defabbs, and I'm also on TikTok as Gabs Defabbs.
Sounds like a winner. Guys, make sure you support, share, like, click the button. All it takes is one click to change somebody's life and even change your life. Gabrielle, thank you so much. I'll call you to get another reading on me.
Awesome.
But in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show.